Absolutely. We worked really, really hard. You know, it's like in all things in life, there's no substitute for hard work. But I think we really resonated with women. I mean, that's really kind of the issue that was in this race. Women are under attack. They want their freedoms. We took a step back 50 years in women's being able to control their bodies, control their life. And women really showed up to vote in this race. And I think also another key component is I was the most qualified person in this race, the most qualified woman, and it was predominantly a bunch of men trying to tell the most qualified woman she should not have her space. And women really resonated with that too. Oh yeah, women were telling me at the doors. You know, it was the vast majority of turnout were older women in this race, and they saw themselves in me. They saw themselves in the narrative of what I represented, and they came out to vote, and they voted strong. Well, we always campaign hard. You know, I mean, that is a message of me. And you know, I've won each of my state house races. I flipped my first state house race. We won this outright, and that's due to a very tough campaign team. I have the smartest campaign staff in the business, and we all work really, really, really hard, and we don't leave anything on the field. And we'll bring that same tenacity to the general election this fall. Well, first, absolutely, restoring women's freedom, passing an abortion reproductive rights bill so that women and men who love women, it's not just about women, but it's have the freedom to make their choices of their own body, their own health, when and by whom they become a parent, and all of those things. I think that is absolutely fundamental and a top priority. You know, I also want to see the Equality Act passed. You know, I'm going to be the first LGBTQ person elected to Congress from the state of Texas, or from any kind of southern state for that matter. And I don't think it is insignificant the fact that so much hate and aggression towards the LGBTQ community genesis from the state legislature and from Texas itself. And so I really want to see the Equality Act passed. And then there are so many others that I think would be in that third spot. You know, addressing the border is clearly a priority for Texas. It's something we need to focus on. But I also want to close the Social Security windfall for our teachers and our public sector employees. You know, right now, if they pay into Social Security, even though they may have a second job, they're not entitled to those benefits that they paid for. And they're also dinged by their spouse's Social Security. I think that's wrong. I think it's a disincentive for people to serve in public sector and in our teaching professions. And I think that's something we need to fix.
Right?
That's right.
Because
Right. Yes, I do. I think we need to correct that. And then obviously we have to address healthcare access in Texas. You know, we lead the nation in uninsured, we lead the nation in maternal mortality, we lead the nation in infant mortality, and we need to do better. Yes. Right. Well, you know, I think there's about legislating, and it's about what can be passed. It's about being realistic about what can be achieved. You can't ever forget that, because I want to always talk about what we can get done. And I think codifying Roe v. Wade is the most likely path. And in Texas, if we could do that, we would help so many families, so many women. Ultimately, would you love to see the choices totally being within a woman and their physician? Absolutely. but the likelihood of that passing isn't very strong. And so I want to get past what we can get past. I think the Equality Act is very doable. You know, it passed the House once. It got very close in the Senate. And there is a definite, the polling across the country does not support discrimination against the LGBTQ community, period. And so there is a lot of bipartisan support for that. You know, right, wrong, or otherwise, there are gay kids, gay families in both parties. You know, Republicans have gay kids, Democrats have gay kids. Republicans are gay, Democrats are gay, all across the board. And so that is not one party affiliation. And so I think it's important to protect discrimination against our community in all forms. And unfortunately, you know, there's the far right side of the Republican Party here in Texas seems to think that the LGBTQ community is the punching bag for their politics, is the way and the path to win a primary, and it's unacceptable, and we need federal protections. Yeah, we would need 60 votes. I think the Democrats are going to take the House.
You do?
I do, absolutely. I think there is such concern in this country for the health of our democracy and where we're going forward that Trump and what he represents and his vision for our country is unacceptable to the vast majority of Americans. I absolutely support that. I'm also very interested in seeing where Congresswoman Veronica Escobar's Dignity Act goes, because it also addresses the immigration crisis itself, not just border security. I do think you have to look at both. It's a comprehensive solution, not a one-sided. You know, you have to put the whole plate on the table. But yes, I would have absolutely voted for that. It would provide critical funding for timely processing at the border, and that is one of the biggest problems that we have, is that people are coming to our border and it is taking years for them to get processed. And that is unacceptable. You know, people who should be allowed, who need to be here, should be allowed in. People who don't need to be here need to not be allowed in. And it needs to be done quickly. And so we need a fair, fast, and final process. We don't have that right now. And you know, I think the bipartisan border bill certainly goes a long way, but we need to give a legal pathway for dreamers. We need to just end that right now. We need to create that for them. I think Governor Abbott is doing political stunting, and what he's doing to secure the border is not helpful. He is not putting the resources into processing, but at the same time, we do have separation of powers. It's the federal government's responsibility to secure our borders, and the federal government needs to do that. No, they haven't, but it needs to be done. And it's been a problem across multiple administrations. You know, you can go back to when George Bush was president. They tried to do a comprehensive immigration reform bill at that point. And multiple administrations have kicked this can down the road. And it's time for Democrats to stand up and lead. We are, in my opinion, the best equipped to balance all of the concerns for border security and also the humanitarian component to that, and being in a compassionate way. We need to, you know, have a system that kicks out the criminals but allows the cooks in. You know, we need to create jobs and create opportunities. We need to do a comprehensive overhaul of our visa system and how businesses can get workforce. You know, we have 8 million unfulfilled jobs in critical areas that people need workforce. And you know, our business economy thrives on that. Immigrants have done incredible things to our economy and how this country has been built. And so we need to create opportunities, I think, and take a look at how visas are allocated, how they're issued, to create the opportunities for people to come and work. Most people just want to come work and go home. And we need to have create an easier pathway for seasonal workers and all the things. No, I mean, I would love to see, I mean, the state of Texas is a fundamental part of our country. I'm a Texan. I want to see the oil and gas industry be able to export its resources as necessary, and I would favor that. I think tax policy needs to be fair. I think everybody needs to pay their fair share, and we need to reduce our deficit. Our deficits are out of control, and we need to take aggressive steps. I haven't studied his budget and proposals in detail, obviously. I haven't been briefed on anything, but just at the 10,000-foot level, you know, I support reducing that deficit. I think I'm very concerned about it, just like many, many Americans are, and we need a fair tax policy so that everyone's paying their fair share. It could, yeah, sure, absolutely. I think we need to take a good look at a lot of things. I am, it's like anyone. I have to look at spending in my own household. Everybody does. We all do. And the federal government needs to be wise and resourceful about how it spends its money. Well, I absolutely am in favor of the Biden administration's request for a 6-week pause and ceasefire to allow humanitarian aid and to allow a pathway for peace negotiations. You know, I'm very concerned about what happens after the day that the bullets stop flying. Who is going to govern Gaza? Who is in charge? Is it Hamas? Is it the Palestinian Authority? Is it some other organization? You know, what is the long-term impact? I think the humanitarian crisis is atrocious. I do support the Biden's building of his pier, you know, to allow humanitarian aid in. I think it's unacceptable that people are starving and that people don't have access to food and innocent civilians, and we need to do everything we can to mitigate that humanitarian crisis. That's right. It's up to Hamas right now. You know, I mean, Hamas, I agree with that. You know, Hamas is a terrorist organization. And I think Israel has every right to defend itself against a terrorist organization. So, but where are we going forward? I think that's what I mean. I think I support a two-state solution. I support the opportunity for peace negotiations. I'm glad to see other countries are finally coming to the table. This is not just an American-led. This needs to be a regionally led process. And so I'm glad to see Jordan getting involved. I'm glad to see Egypt getting involved. I'm glad to see Saudi Arabia wanting to get involved and other countries. And I think that's important. Well, if I have that honor, you know, there's so many to choose from. There's, you know, what I've learned in the state legislature is that every committee is important or it wouldn't be there. And there's so many, but I've served on appropriations in the House. I've served on judiciary in the Texas House. I have experience in both of those areas. Obviously, healthcare is an area that I have a lot of passion and interest in working on, and an area I have a lot of legislative experience in. So I'd love to explore opportunities in those spaces. Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.